Hello, hello. Hiya. Morning, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm now realizing it sounds like I've logged into a work call. You're like, hello, can anybody hear me? Am I on mute? Please let me know if you can hear me, because this live stream would be a bit tricky if you couldn't hear me. But morning, everybody, and I hope we're all doing really, really well. The time is upon us once more. Just let people kind of come on in. And again, I now feel like I'm hosting a Zoom call at work. Also trying to get used to the fact that my little webcam is there. Hi, everyone. We are, thank you, Wonka. Wonderful word, mellifluous. And yeah, I'm also very glad because I was panicking because I couldn't really test the camera properly to try and work out how much sort of rubbish in the background you might be able to see in my room. Fortunately, a lot of it's been hidden. So yeah, there we go. But yeah, thank you. I love that people are coming in at sort of stupidly early times for where they are in their time zones. Kieran saying Bob looks like he's going to put me on hold. I will, Kieran. I will. It's what you deserve. Morning everybody. This is really quite exciting. The Booker Prize is once more upon us, and it feels like, I mean, every year it's almost like when people are waiting for Christmas, right, where there's this sort of like, oh, it comes earlier every year. In this case, I think this is actually later this year. It's very it kind of is coming at weird times, it seems. I don't know. Part of the whole thing that some people have sort of, I suppose, pontificated about this year is that it is potentially, you know, the fact that we're starting a little bit later, kind of a couple of weeks later than usual. Is that because there are some chunkier books and people needed more time? Is that just because, I don't know, they just scheduling issues? Who knows? But what we shall see, I guess, is what this actually means in terms of the books that are there. And yeah, the Booker is a very weird thing at times. The thing that I often try and keep in mind is this is a group of 5 people who read 140, 150 books and are making a decision on what they want based on that, what they liked based on that. And so that can be misleading at times, because sometimes you're like, yes, here are clearly the books chosen by the people, I'm looking at you, the colony, and that were universally loved, or, you know, had a lot of love behind them, but maybe for those 5 people in the room didn't work. And so that's kind of what might well happen. But anyway, my rambling aside, lots of people have been turning up in the chat here. I am still ridiculously impressed by people who are like logging on at 2-3 a.m. Hello everybody. So look, 45 people are here, which is kind of wild. Hello. That's very kind. 2:47. I think we maybe have our earliest. In some ways, I don't know if 2:47 or 2:45 or 3:45 is worse, because 2:45 is almost a little bit of right at the end of my day. I might go to bed after this. 3:45, I feel like you have to wake up for that to some degree. Or, I mean, like for me, I ideally like to be in bed at 11. So I guess for most of these, I'd have to work up. But hi, everybody. Hello. I love that Kieran is just sort of fully in hype mode on the chat, just full of love. 1:30 p.m. See, that feels a bit more doable. In India, I feel like 1:30 is sort of like, okay, I'm just going to take an extended lunch break, or what have you. Wonko saying 11 is a bit late for them. I mean, if I could, like, if my body basically hasn't, I don't think, worked out that if we stay up later, we should probably get up later. So my body, regardless of when I go to bed, unless I've had like 2 hours sleep, my body's like, right, cool, 7 a.m. Let's vaguely try and do this, because I'm up with the sun usually-ish. Anyway, you didn't come here to listen to me talking about my sleep patterns, but there we go. And yeah, we'll go from there. I'm intrigued to hear people's thoughts. I know some people, there have been some rumors, some other bits coming through, but I'm really keen to hear what people think might be the upsets on this list, both in terms of ones that might, books that they think are everyone's thinking are going to make it that won't, and books that might be a surprise kind of entrance one. And Owen, a sleep stream, I don't think it's anything anybody needs, because I don't know, not only because I think I'm a fidgeter, but also I'm a snorer. So I mean, generally speaking, those two things don't they don't marry together. This is also why I'm single. Like, no, I think these are sort of, yeah, they're not the most attractive qualities for trying to get a good night's sleep. So so there we go. Ink Drinker reads, yeah, Demon Copperhead is one of those weird ones because it's been on so many lists. Not only people's prediction lists, including my own, but on so many other prize lists. You know, it won the Women's Prize, it won the Pulitzer, it won the James Tate Memorial Prize. I think it was shortlisted for something else. It's yeah, it's just all over the shop. So Demon is maybe one of those ones. I think the other, to one of the questions in the chat, other Women's Prize novels that are eligible, I believe Fire Rush and Wandering Souls, and I'm sure there was another one. Maybe Black Butterflies, I think, might be eligible as well. So we shall see. Sorry, just catching up with these chats. So yeah, Kieran, Kieran says, can confirm Bob is a snorer. Each time we meet up, he just falls asleep when I talk. It's true, Kieran. You should work on that. Only joking. But yeah, I think as Shannon says, like, Demon being left off might actually be a really good thing. There's the thing a couple of years ago when Hilary Mantel's The Mirror and the Light was longlisted, and then it didn't make the shortlist, and there was this big panic. And Hilary Mantel was very gracious about it and said something to the extent of, you know, because I've won twice before for two other books in this trilogy, everybody's seeing it as this big travesty if it doesn't make it, but actually, you know, fine. And actually, I think the shortlist that year was better off for The Mirror and the Light not being there. I loved it. I would have shortlisted it, I think. But I think it actually freed up a bit of space for the other books to really shine, and it meant that the conversation wasn't all Hilary Mantel, is she going to do the hat trick? It kind of cleared space for us to actually have a better conversation, I think. So in some ways, Demon not being there is a kind of a useful thing for that conversation, even though I think Demon deserves a space on the long list. I think it's good enough to have it be there. Oh yeah, Owen, thank you. Dog of the North from the women's long list is also eligible for the Booker. Missing breakfast for this. Please still have breakfast in the background. I'll just be wittering away. Covenant of Water is eligible, I believe, Kelly, and it's one of those ones I've heard a few people talk about, and it sounds kind of cool. I'm sometimes a bit nervous around super long books, but I think some really long books kind of can merit their length, and that sounds like one that is. Limberlost is one. Yeah, so Limberlost is a book I read earlier this year, and I feel kind of bad because it's one of those books I really enjoyed as I was listening to the audiobook, and I didn't really do much of a review of it at the time. And then I've kind of forgotten some details of it. And I'm sure it'll come back if I either listen to somebody else talking about it or I read a review or something. But Limberlost is one of those ones that I think would be a really cool addition to this list. And also, I mean, an Australian, which we've not really had much for recent years. Tan Tuan Eng would be a great addition. I finished House of Doors recently and I really enjoyed it. I think I still maybe enjoyed The Garden of Evening Mists more, but you know, Tan Tuan Eng is a great writer, I think, and that would also be another interesting perspective to this list. Let's see what else people are saying. Oh my god, there are loads of bits in this chat. Opera cake. Oh my gosh, sorry. I'm being really distracted by this notion of opera cake, a French tiramisu kind of thing. Sorry, Molly, I'm going to need I'm going to need a little bit more on this opera cake. This sounds incredible. I'm kind of not like a millefeuille kind of thing. Was it like? I love that Kieran is just also straight up trolling in the chat here. So hoping Pride and Prejudice makes it. Austen is up for a Book Talk Award for Rediscovered Author. Hoping she gets the Booker and the recognition she deserves. R.A.P. Bestie Austen. This is ludicrous. Thank you, Kieran. I love that Kieran's trolling powers are still at their full force at this time in the morning. Shannon saying, I hope there's a pod style book on the list. So yeah, one of those weird and wacky ones. I kind of feel like there probably will be. There's always something that's a little bit out there. I think there's also some kind of benefit. So if you, I suppose the thing I always sort of try and think of is if I'm reading 140 or 150 books, what will really stand out as the top book? And that's probably going to be something, you know, there'll be a fair bit in the middle where it's just a good story, very, very well told. There'll be a couple of books in there that are probably quite moving and emotional in some ways, probably some kind of quite wacky ones because they will really stand out in the 150 books. And something maybe formally quite experimental, which is kind of why I thought something like Isabel Weidner's Corey Fada Social Mobility might make it, because it is so out there. But I also don't know. I realize this is the thing. I made my predictions, which I'll come to in a moment, which I'm almost definitely going to be massively wrong on. I made my predictions just at the end of May, and then sort of scheduled it for because I was going to be away for a little while. And I think what happened in the meantime was I then read loads of books that were eligible, and suddenly it was just like, oh, yeah, actually that could have been a good one. So Biography of X being a prime example where I read it and just thought, you know what, this is great. I really loved this and I think it has a good chance. So we shall see. We're 3 minutes away. I'll do a very quick rundown of what my hopes/predictions were, which I'm almost definitely sure are completely wrong, but there we go. So first up, I had Tom Crew, The New Life, Linda Grant, The Story of the Forest, which I've got here somewhere. Guy Gunaratna with Mr. Paul Harding with This Other Eden, Priya Hain with Riambal, Barbara Kingsolver, Demon Copperhead, Deborah Levy with August Blue, Martin McInnes in Ascension, Benjamin Myers, Cuddy, Cécile Pin, Wandering Souls, Salman Rushdie, Victory City, which is here, Zadie Smith's The Fraud, and Isabel Weidner's Corey Fada Social Mobility. Increasingly, as I look at that list now, particularly having read other things and particularly just because of what else is kind of coming, I think I'm probably wrong. It's now just a game of how wrong am I? You know, are we talking I get 2 out of 13? Is it 5? I think 1 year I maybe got 5. I think that's maybe been my highest so far, which means it almost feels like it's time to retire the Booker part, because I clearly do not know the Booker as well as I thought. Also, though, I will say there is something that is quite good about the fact that there's a rotating set of judges, because it does mean that you get wildly different lists each year, and the lists I think often will have maybe 1 or 2 writers, sometimes 3, and sometimes a couple of people who are not writers. And so it's interesting to see how it sort of blends a few things up, you know, how it kind of it can mean that you've just got some real wild cards that you otherwise would not have expected. So let's see, we are under 2 minutes away. Hello, hello, Shopper's team. Yes, and so now we're very, very close to it. Although I say that, it's going to be also one of those things where the live stream goes and they don't tell you, the books don't appear straight away. You know, there have definitely been some live streams where I say, cool, right, yeah, the live stream's here, and then it's 10 minutes and it goes. Also, no worries, low Shopper's team. I'm starting work slightly later, so I can do this today. But now let's see how the Booker Prize is getting on. Are we here? If anybody in the chat, it's posted on Instagram. Oh gosh, already they are really quick. They've learned a lot from previous years. Here we go. Okay. Oh wow. Okay, right, here we go. So we have oh gosh, okay, it's coming as a video. This is really frustrating. Okay, so Tan Tuang Eng with The House of Doors is on there. We have Sean Hughes with Pearl. We have, this is one thing with the frustrating thing about how it's posted on Instagram is it comes as a video, and so I'm like, great, let me just watch that video 4 more times so I can get them all. Okay, A Spell of Good Things by Ayobami Adebayo, which I'm a little bit surprised by. I thought it was good. I didn't think it would be a kind of thing that would make the booker. We have Study for Obedience by Sarah Bernstein. We have Elaine Feeney's How to Build a Boat. We have Paul Murray's The Bee Sting, which I got very recently from the lovely Kieran as well. So, there we go. And then we've got This Other Eden by Paul Harding. I got one, yay. We've got Stop Moving. Okay, this is really frustrating how quickly this video is moving. So we've got so many little books here, which I literally, my phone is just now like, okay, great, let's reload that video. Okay, so we've got Prophet Song by Paul Lynch, which I've not heard of before. We've got Old God's Time by Sebastian Barry, which I have read and really, really loved. I love Sebastian Barry. It's interesting. This is I wouldn't have thought this one. So I read this before I made my predictions, and I really loved. I really love his work anyway, Sebastian Barry. I thought it might have a shout, but I actually I didn't think it would have been his most interesting book to do it. And actually, I'm really glad it did. I love it, but it is, yeah, maybe not the one I kind of imagined. And thank you. I'm glad. Thank you, Chloe. It's really frustrating me that it is just a video. I just want a list of books that I can read very easily. I'm getting on. If I Survive You as well. So Western Lane, I finished yesterday, which I really enjoyed. I think is a very good book in its own right. Quite a quiet book, quite a subtle book, and I think does quite a lot of quite exciting things. I think I think the website might be the way here. Prophet Song by Paul Lynch is one I've not heard of. In Ascension, I'm very, very glad for. I love that book. So I think in my prediction, I have 2, maybe 3. Did I predict House of Doors? I can't remember if I just loved House of Doors or predicted it. Nope, I didn't predict it. Great. Okay, so I predicted 2. Wonderful. But the thing that is very exciting about kind of being so wrong is the thing that's really, really exciting about being so wrong on a list like this is often that you get to read new books that you hadn't really previously thought of. Many of these I have not read. I think I've read, hang on, 1, 2, 3, stop moving, 4. I have read 6 of this list. So actually not as bad as I thought. I thought I would have read far fewer of this list. It's an interesting set. I need some time to properly digest a lot of it, I think. But yeah, really exciting. As Penelope said, really exciting to see In Ascension there. I think In Ascension is a very, very strong book. I'm very glad to see it there. A lot that I don't know. A few, I think, as a few people in the chat have been saying, some real heavy hitters that are just not there, right? So we don't have Salman Rushdie's Victory City. We don't have Demon Copperhead. I need to do some thinking about what the gender split is on this. This is kind of quite an interesting one, potentially. It seems like a fairly international-ish list, potentially. Or maybe not. The more I look at this, maybe it's not. Yes, and then there's also this one other book. Hang on, I do have a copy of this because I heard some little rumours. All the Little Birds by Bird Hearts by Victoria Lloyd Barlow, and this book talks a lot about the experience. Well, the main character is autistic, and so talks quite a lot. It seems sort of as a result of about that. So I'm intrigued to see how this slots together. What a list! Okay, interesting. This is always the interesting part. Yeah, so Mex Libris, yeah, good point. No In Memoriam, which is actually quite an interesting omission, because although I didn't put it in my predictions, it's one of those books that's kind of been everywhere this year and has had so much love, and one of the most almost ridiculously high Goodreads ratings of a fiction book. So I was kind of fairly convinced it had an outside chance, at least. Salman Rushdie not being there I think is a fairly big surprise. I don't think it's his strongest book ever. I still think it's good. And so I think that could be could be interesting. It also does seem like the judges overall have gone away from the obvious. There are only a few authors in here who are sort of big hitters, you know, kind of multiple awards, all those sorts of things. People like Sebastian Barry or Tan Tuan Yang, Paul Harding, who I think won the Nobel before, the Pulitzer before. So yeah, I was way off. I cannot predict to save my life. Yeah, what were we thinking in the chat for this list? I think Owen is already bring on International Booker 2024. Yeah, what a wild list. Okay, I feel like now I'm just sort of just here a little bit in surprise, trying to piece together what this actually means. I think initial thoughts from seeing all 13 sat next to each other is, I mean, from the ones I've read, they're quite mysterious little books, a few of them. So In Ascension, I'm really glad made it, because I think it's a really beautiful book. I think it takes a sort of what could be a really sort of typical sci-fi fantasy sort of type of thing with some of those tropes and what have you, and really expands some parts out and does some really interesting other things. I think This Other Eden is a really clever book that talks a lot about This Other Eden talks a lot about this kind of community of people who are sort of almost forgotten, this kind of sort of racially mixed group on this island, and the sort of struggles. Yeah. And then Tan Tuan Yang's The House of Doors is a really interesting one. I think that is a book that does a lot with sort of conversations around colonialism and various other things. Yeah, I'm a little bit in shock with some parts of this. Okay, Kieran is now demanding the winner already from me, which, I mean, I can't call this early from only having read 6 of them. I think In Ascension will make the shortlist. That's my only first Max Libris, the intern, posted the wrong list. I mean, it's always one of those things. The proof will be in the pudding, or the reading, I guess. But let's see. I think this is the thing. So, like I said at the beginning, like, judges every year will pick the books based on the 150 that they've read. So it may also be that some of our favorites haven't been submitted in the first place for them to even check out. And it might be that then they kind of got edged out by some potentially new and exciting books, many of which I have not heard of. So this is very exciting to kind of dig into. I'm also a little confused. Yeah, I think, although it makes sense that someone like Demon hasn't made it, it does feel like a bit of a strange thing that you know, that even just to not be long listed, you know, fair enough if it's not shortlisted, but there we go. And Jacqueline, as she mentioned, maybe four Irish books potentially. Sebastian Barry, I don't know who else is Irish on this list. Elaine Feeney, I think there are a couple more in there. So yeah, I'm intrigued. What are people's plans around reading these? Is everyone now feverishly just like buying these / finding them from their library? And yeah, kind of going from there. I'm a little intrigued. But no, this is the thing. I think it's exactly as Hannah said. I'm a little deflated, but I always am when I know so few of the titles. A few are appealing, Pearl, or The Little Bird Hearts. And I think that's exactly it. It's sort of, these feel disappointing because they're sort of the books that we know and we've either read or have read about. So like Biography of X, for example, I think is a book that would have been a really great addition to the list. But actually, it may well be that in reading some of these, we find out many other incredible books. Last year for me, I think there were quite a few that I hadn't heard of at all that I then ended up going and really enjoying. So the Seven Moons, which I think was a really beautiful book in many ways. I think in sort of previous years, things like Burnt Sugar by Avni Doshi is a book I had not come across in the slightest until it was longlisted, then shortlisted. And then I really loved it and I thought it was a great book. So there we go. Oh, Jen, thank you. Also, thank you everybody who's sort of doing stats in the chat here. So 7 of these are from indie publishers, apparently, which is amazing, actually. That is maybe the most we've ever had from indies. I don't think I've ever seen so many. I'm sweating, apparently. There you go. It's stressful stuff. If there are 7 from indie publishers, that's very exciting. Kind of just over half being indie, 4 of the 13 being Irish, after there have been a few years where Irish authors just weren't there at all, and lots of other things. And Kelly, yes, sorry, for the latecomers, I'm going to try and find a better post quickly on this, because the Booker one comes up as just like a video, which is really frustrating me. Let me, in the background, quickly get the list up, and I'll pop it in the chat here. But what a list! That is very interesting. You know, one of those things where you're sort of like, I never fully know what to expect with a Booker, and that's its appeal. Like, I think there is a kind of there we go. That's the list in the chat there. The thing that I sometimes feel for the Booker, in that it can't win either way. If it's a list full of expected books, often it is it gets kind of, people criticize it for kind of being too expected and kind of being elitist and choosing the books that everybody expected. Also, the website has updated really weirdly, where it's only listing a long list of 2, which is Study for Obedience and Old God's Time. So apparently it's going to be a short race. So the long list is In Ascension by Martin McInnes, Study for Obedience by Sarah Bernstein, Chetna Maru with Western Lane, Tan Tuan Eng with House of Doors, Paul Harding with This Other Eden, Ayabami Adebayo with A Spell of Good Things, Sean Hughes with Pearl, Paul Lynch with Prophet Song, Elaine Feeney with How to Build a Boat, Victoria Lloyd Barlow with All the Little Bird Hearts, If I Survive You by Jonathan Escoffery, Old God's Time by Sebastian Barry, and Paul Murray with The Bee Sting. So there we go. Those are our 13. Oh, here we go. There are some stats on the website. So 10 writers longlisted for the first time, including 4 debut novelists, 3 writers with 7 previous nominations between them, writers from 7 countries across 4 continents, 4 Irish writers, making up a third of the long list for the first time, a novel featuring a neurodiverse protagonist written from a personal experience, so that's this one here, and the chair of the judges, Azia Dugian, has said all 13 novels cast new light on what it means to exist in our time, and they do so in original and thrilling ways. So there we go. That's our long list for this year. I will be reading all of them for my sins, and I will be sort of doing solo reviews of them. This is now the challenge where I have to sort of try and remember sort of things from This Other Eden, which I read just before I went away for a month, and it was a chaotic time, so I'm not sure how much I actually remember. I might have to reread it just to be on top of it. But here we go. We have our list. I'm excited to hear about to kind of hear people's thoughts as they read these books and as they discover them. And okay, that's good to know, Kelly, about If I Survive You. I had not heard about this book in the slightest, I think, so I have no idea what to expect for that. I mean, even more intrigued, given that it's you read it for your Jamaican Women's World Cup reading group. So that's not what I would have imagined from the author's name and from the title, but I am really I don't know what I expected, really, but I'm intrigued to read that book now as well. So there we go. Thank you for joining me on this. I'm still a little bit reeling from trying to work out what this list is. It's full of some surprises. I think. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Beating Around the Books, Zenith. Yeah. The one I was talking about, the neurodiverse, the book about with sort of neurodiverse characters. All the Little Bird Hearts by Victoria Lloyd Barlow. And yeah, let's have a little gander through this. Owen, cheers, Booker, son's crying. Which of these, yeah, thank you, Mex Libris, which of the ones you haven't read are you most interested in? I think, only because I've heard that it's quite polarizing in terms of its ending, Paul Murray's The Bee Sting, I think I'm quite excited for. I think What other ones? Let's look at this list again. So the ones I've not read that I'm really excited for. Elaine Feeney's How to Build a Boat. I'm wondering if this is sort of like around refugee narratives, just based on the cover and based on the title. I know so little about some of these other books, it has to be said. Yeah, Study for Obedience sounds kind of fascinating. I'm largely judging this on the front cover and the name. But I think also potentially, I don't know if this is the first time it's happened in a good few years. I need to go back and do the stats. I feel like this is one of the first years in a while where we haven't had a former winner on the long list in some way. Maybe that happened last year and I'm just blanking it out, but it feels like we haven't got any sort of former winners here, which is also quite exciting, right? That if the book's whole mission is around, new and exciting fiction, sometimes that can definitely come from an established author. Sometimes that can be from a brand new voice altogether. So let's see. I'm gonna go and work now because that's what I need to do to pay the bills and to buy the books from this long list. But I think from the ones I've not read yet, I'm kind of probably going to start on the Beast thing soon, potentially All the Little Bird Hearts, because I own them, and so I can. With the others, it may well be a little bit of waiting for it from the library. Oh, thank you. Compassion for All. Escoffrey's book was longlisted for the National Book Award last year. Aha, thank you. That is very useful to know, because some of these will have appeared elsewhere, I guess. But either way, I'm going to go and work now. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for listening to me as I sort of ramble and get very confused, particularly for this last 15 minutes where I'm just sort of staring at a moving video and trying to work out what on earth's going on. I've been Bod Booker. Thank you for joining me. And I will see you in various videos where I'm talking about this long list and trying to make sense of it. And also making sense of it sounds a bit more negative, but where I'm trying to understand what this list looks a bit more like. Anyway, Bod Booker, take care. Thank you all so much for joining me. Have a great day. Take care. That's where the button is. There we go. Bye.